My name is Habak Pascal, and I would like to welcome you to the guided tour of my ePortfolio webpage. This video will give you a navigated tour of my website and provide commentary about my organizational and design choices so that you can learn about my academic and creative decisions while composing this portfolio. Let's get started. Currently, we are on my homepage where I provide a little bit of background information about myself, both personally and professionally. It was important for me to begin my portfolio with my background because I wanted to put a face behind my learning and provide information about myself to connect with my audience. I've been in the MET program since 2012 and since then have become empowered with my learning about the theoretical and practical applications of technology. My ePortfolio is entitled The Migration and is divided into 5 sections: Home, Theme, Mapping the Terrain, Into the Clouds, and more. I decided against adding a reference section because I thought it would be better suited to list at the bottom of each web page for easy access. As you may have noticed, you can also view subheadings under each title when you point your cursor. This provides you with a general overview about what to expect, as well as enables you to view my portfolio in a non-linear way according to your interest and learning style. If you're interested in viewing my portfolio in the way that I have organized it, then follow the button on the bottom of the page. If you would like to review the previous page, there will always be a button located at the top of the page that you can click on to easily be directed. Let's move to theme. Currently, we are on my theme page where I explain more about my metaphor for my portfolio. I chose the metaphor of migration to describe my learning in the MET for both personal and professional reasons. I am of East African heritage and I come from a nomadic group of people whose way of life is migration. And after thinking about my experience in the MET, I found that I can make many parallels between migration and the learning that I experienced in the program. Using my metaphor as an organizational framework, I've carefully chosen and organized my artifacts and reflections around the push and pull factors that influenced my migration into the MET program and transformed my teaching practice. Choosing and arranging my artifacts around my metaphor was the most challenging part of creating my portfolio. I was constantly moving and rearranging artifacts under different headings and subheadings, trying to find the perfect fit that made the most sense. What I discovered is that there's no perfect fit because my learning could not be categorized because of the interconnectedness. Many of my artifacts were placed in one section, but have connections to others. When this happens, I've made sure to hyperlink to the alternate section to acknowledge this and present a multidimensional experience. This page also contains my purpose for my portfolio, my intended audience, and objectives. Let's move on to the next section. This section details my migration by introducing the push factors that led me into the MET program. 2 questions are explored here. How has technology influenced our culture? And how has our culture influenced technology? I framed these questions around the idea of exploring a new terrain. When I looked up the definition of terrain, I was pleasantly surprised by the third meaning, a field of knowledge or interest. This fits really well with describing my learning, and I was able to connect this metaphor to make several connections. What I have learned about the terrain and found most meaningful are listed here and hyperlinked for you to explore in the order that you choose. Mapping the terrain has 3 subheadings that are the titles for my push factors: diffusion of information, rise in transliteracy, and advances in neuroscience. I chose to list the diffusion of information first because it was a recurring sociocultural condition that permeated through most of my other sections. Let's click on the button below to access the next page. Each subheading follows an organizational framework that is divided into 4 sections. The first section, metaphor, this is where I connect my metaphor to the push factors that I spoke about earlier. The artifacts, this is where I list my artifacts that I've purposefully chosen to represent my metaphor. They are hyperlinked for access and the courses listed beside them in brackets. I decided to include this section just in case some of my embedded artifacts in my reflection section became inaccessible. Reflection on artifacts, this is where I go into detail to make connections with my metaphor and my artifacts through critical analysis and questioning. And lastly, change in teaching practice. This is where I connect pedagogy with practice as I discuss and provide examples about how my learning has transferred into the classroom and ways that I intend to move forward as a lifelong learner. I intend for this portfolio to be a living document, one that I can revisit and add to, so it was important for me to organize each subheading this way instead of just writing one big reflection, so that it would be easier for me to revise in the future. I'm going to move up here. So Mapping the Terrain has two additional subheadings, Rise in Transliteracy and Advances in Neuroscience. I'm not going to go through them, but they are organized in the same format. Let's move into the clouds. This is my next major section. This section details my migration by introducing the pull factors that led me into the MET program. I was being pulled into it because of the opportunity to grow as an educator and be able to share that learning with my students in positive and productive ways. I decided to break with my organizational pattern here and include an artifact that I completed in ETC 532 because I felt that it represented the growth that I had experienced after being pulled in. This section of my portfolio looks at three key areas that I found most meaningful: responsibility, accessibility, and students as producers. They are again hyperlinked to explore at your discretion. I've included the subheading responsibility first because I feel that it was a recurring theme that permeated the others. Let's click next to access the page. As you can see, the organizational framework is the same, beginning with metaphor, the artifacts, reflection on artifacts, and change in professional practice. This also continues on for the other two subheadings, accessibility and students as producers. Let's move to the last section. Under more, application for residency. My last section, called Application for Residency, is my portfolio assessment rubric. This was one of my first documents that I created in my original proposal that guided me along with my metaphor in creating this portfolio. Having the opportunity to create my own assessment tool was empowering because I had the chance to add my voice in conjunction with the requirements to create a meaningful tool unique to my experience. Just scroll down here so you can see it. This brings my guided tour to an end. I hope this video has given you some insight into my creative process behind this portfolio and that you enjoy the experience of viewing my portfolio in detail. Bye for now.